Pastor Alonzo Garcia, Pastor Kenneth Saul. We invite you guys to share, ask some questions as we play the Table Talk song.
Share. Sharing. Why are you not sharing?
Table talk. Table talk.
Share.
Table talk. Pastor Alonzo and Pastor Ness. Be the worship center sometimes with the guests. Table talk on your social media screen. Filled with the Holy Spirit, got the live feed as we praise God our Father and we pray we sow seed. Let us answer your questions, let us pray for your needs. Pastor Alonzo and Pastor Ness. Be the worship center sometimes with the guests. It's no fable, yeah, we only speak the truth. Yeah, we table talk weekly and it's coming straight to you.
Didn't pop up on my thing yet.
So welcome. We're here with a special guest, the pastor of Grace and Mercy.
Mercy and Grace.
Mercy and
Mercy and
grace.
grace.
It's on your notes.
Man,
Man,
that.
We covered this in pre-production.
It took me like 2 weeks to
guys.
get it right myself.
What's Mercy Before Grace?
Mercy before grace.
Mercy Before Grace Church of God in Grants, New Mexico. We're glad to have you, brother. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going good. It's going really good. We're just getting things established. We're starting to. We got internet today, so that's a good thing.
Amen.
And,
Hallelujah.
I like being able to share the table talk. So there we go.
Interneted. So have you guys covered like any of the history, any of the story?
No.
No announcement, no nothing? Well, so Freedom Worship Center has been busy doing stuff. And we're super blessed. I was working on some numbers and looking at some of the ministry shifts and adjustments. And I'm not saying this for the sake of any kind of shameless self-promotion. I'm saying it for the structure of ministry that Ness and April and the leadership here at Freedom Worship Center have put into place. In the last 3 years, there have been 8 people who have achieved or moved across 8 ministry titles or ministry ranks. And that's pretty powerful for a church that leadership almost outnumbers the congregation at times, because servant leadership has just always been such an important and relevant part of what Freedom Worship Center does. Recently, Freedom Worship Center has had the privilege of, or I guess I have had the privilege of being able to use Freedom Worship Center to host CAMS, the Calling and Ministry Studies program, Calling and Ministry Studies program that's put out by the Department of Education for Church of God. Now, we're hoping to get some of this past seminar, which was on September 11th, and then the upcoming seminar on on October 2nd, recorded and streamed on ChristianBody.net. So we've got some excellent instructors. Claire Saul, Ken's wife, Pastor Ken, so Sister Saul, Sister Claire. She's an exhorter, so she's one of our credentialed ministers. With her credentialing is as a minister of Christian education, and so all of those things just kind of coming together, and leadership development, and friends that have been walking together in ministry for years. You are at a new post of duty. And
yes.
So you're wearing a couple hats right now, and that's got to be a little bit stressful, but
a little bit.
Yeah, but it's a good chance to grow. So, Ken, what are you doing these days?
So last couple of weeks, it feels like I've been going nonstop for the past 2 weeks, like every day. There is no Sabbath rest for me for the past couple of weeks, but I find my rest in Jesus. But so I've got a functional computer business where I fix and repair and sell computers. Then I've got Table Talk on Monday. Then I've got Freedom Life Skills and Potluck on Tuesday. Then I teach the same life skills teaching at Expect a Miracle on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I usually try and get some computer work done. And then on Friday night, we have Freedom Night. And then Saturday, I try and get some more computer work done. And then Sunday we're in Grants. So yeah, we're doing things.
Yeah,
Doing the things.
it's good. So the church in Grants, Mercy and Grace Church of God, they're at 224 Monroe Avenue in Grants, 87020. Sunday service at 10:30.
10:30 starts.
10:30.
Worship starts at 10:30.
Worship starts at 10:30, and Brother Mark and Sister Roxanne lead worship. Do a great job. It's a church that has been through some challenges for a number of years. It was up for sale.
Right.
I mean, there was a building that was on the property that had to come down. Pastor Jim, worked with the state to get the permits to get all of that done. But now you're in a community that you have an opportunity to bring some revitalization to the spiritual community. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting, and Ness, I'll connect this with you. I was talking to someone the other day about the comment that you made when someone said that Freedom Worship Center is a hip hop friendly church, right?
Yeah.
And so I was talking with someone, and they hadn't really ever considered that in any context. And then they started to think about it, and they said, that is really interesting that you would find a collection of people who might have histories like they're ex-drug addicts or criminals, or they have tattoos, or maybe they struggle with sin, or they have relationship problems. And what a difficult thing it would be to get people who are just struggling with life inside a church. Who cares what music they listen to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's the fellow I was talking to has done a lot. It does T-shirts and clothing. The fellow that did the Raw Ministry shirt. So I got to reconsider. We've been serving food.
Raw.
The
For
Raw
Raw
Ministry. And I'm like,
Ministry
it's real authentic witness, but I got to work on it. Anyway, back to the history of
Raw
this
steak.
church, right?
Tartar.
It's not necessarily bad. So this fellow that I was talking to, he's got experience with the hip hop community, and I said, man, Ken is a former DJ, and still a DJ, and just involved with the music scene, and the connections that you've made, brother. It is astounding that you've made Freedom Worship Center under your leadership the kind of place that people would consider hip hop friendly. And I'm like, that's pretty awesome, dude. That is excellent work. And so now you're out west, and it's a community that has at-risk youth that really kind of gravitate toward hip hop music in general. And I can only imagine the collaborations that you guys can do with Kingdom Music, and I'm really excited for what you've got in front of you, man.
So what I've heard, I haven't witnessed yet, but there's a lot of youth in Grants. At the church, the times I've been to the Grants church, almost all everyone there is above 50 years old. And so I haven't witnessed the younger Christian or younger crowd in Grants yet, and I'm praying that God would start to bring and draw, the Holy Spirit would draw some youth, and so we're going to do what we can to make an event to get the word out. We have this revival group coming in in October, so hopefully when they come in, we can get them to.
Well, what's going on with the revival group?
They're engineers who like to bless churches with construction.
Okay.
And so they come in, they do work during the day, and then they do preaching of the gospel at night.
So hey, check this out. We have this really cool platform on Facebook and a couple other things. We use Table Talk.
Maybe we'll do that too.
You should totally announce to the crew how to everyone out there how they can get involved with that. Where it's going to be at. Give them the deets.
Well, it's going to be at Mercy and Grace Church in Grants, New Mexico, starting October 11th through the 17th.
Okay.
So any night you want to show up, or any day you want to show up and help work.
So that's like a week. That's like a week of revival.
A week of revival and church construction on the building.
Nice. So revival's going to be happening inside, outside?
Inside is the plan for now, right?
Okay. Now. All right. So the address again?
224 Monroe Avenue, Grants, New Mexico.
87020.
And you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Google. Just Google the Grants Church, gracechurchgrants.org is our website.
gracechurchgrants.org. I like it. I like it.
So just a quick question: Is your church a Christian hip hop friendly church?
Is it a hip hop friendly church? I plan for it to be. So we haven't done a show there yet. But
well, what I'm getting at is, I went to Grants. Was it 2 years ago? And Aaron was at Grants at a new church over there, and they literally packed the church.
Wow.
They had to bring in more chairs for me and my family to sit.
Well, you have a big family.
Yeah.
I mean, you go anywhere, you're going to have to
Yeah.
bring in chairs.
So what I'm throwing out there, brother, pastor of Mercy and Grace Church,
Lead pastor, senior pastor,
Yeah.
Reverend.
They sent me a thing that said
two-time
Reverend.
striped yellow belt. Aaron's coming here in November. He's looking for another church to team up with to help pay the expenses of motel and whatnot.
Yeah.
But we haven't set an exact date. We just know it's November. But I left it up to him. He finds another church to partner with.
There we go.
Then we'll make it happen. So just something to think about.
We'll be messaging him tonight.
Aaron and even I'm not sure what Marcus Lee's doing, but Marcus Lee and Aaron are pretty popular in Grants. I could tell you that.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you want to bring the youth, I would suggest you give it a thought.
I'm going to share this to Aaron right now.
Oh, hashtag Aaron.
Yeah.
So it's been a couple weeks that I've had a chance to be with you guys, and I'll tell you the first Monday that I wasn't able to make it, I was like, dear God in heaven, they sound so much better without me. I'm not kidding, man. So Ken was interviewing you. And he did a fantastic job. I mean, it was smooth. His questions were well thought out. They were very compelling. It made for an absolutely fantastic podcast. I watched it, even though I wasn't able to be here in person.
Yeah.
The last few weeks for me have been the kind of busy that I don't ever want to be ever again in my life. Ever again. This past year, work has been out of control, man. And so there's some of you out there that I've reached out to for prayer, and thank you. I've been encouraged by your messages, and it's been fantastic. The messages that I've heard you guys preach have been very encouraging and spot on for this season.
Yeah. So the song that comes to my head, I don't know why it always does, is that old Red Hot Chili Pepper song. I don't ever want to feel like I did that day.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if that was your song for the week.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to feel
There it is.
like I did that week.
Yeah.
Take me to a place I love.
Man.
Indeed.
And I think I'm fired from singing again.
I'm not
I
gonna
get fired
fire you.
every week.
Yeah, you're on the choir. It's all good. So.
Oh, man.
Hey, brother Tomas.
Yeah, hey, Tomas, how are you? But yeah, it's I've missed you guys. Let's
We missed you as well.
let's say that. Some of the topics that we've been kicking around, sort of in our background conversations. I don't know, folks watching. I don't know if you'll ever, get an ear on some of those, but these two guys are tremendous thinkers. They consider things in context. They are very good at analyzing things, and sometimes they come up with strange conclusions. But I'm working on fixing their thinking. But it's been there have been some great topics that we've covered. I know that I sent one to you that probably sounded very disjointed. So it was earlier today. So I had it as a note, and I just haven't finished sending it yet. But what I was trying to explain in context is that sometimes there is confusion with the way that we look at, discuss, describe, and present the idea of holiness. Jesus specifically says, go into the world and get those people. But modern religion, and really it's as applied through Pauline theology, that creates this exclusive group that says, no, we really don't want to get mixed up with that. We have to keep ourselves unspotted. And there's just really this twisting of things, and what it turns into is church people who are afraid to get dirty. And that's really where I'm headed with that. And it just ties in with the idea that you brought up of dysfunctional discipleship.
Mm.
So anyway, it was.
I read that thing from Paul Ellis that you shared, where he's talking about working toward making yourself holy rather than just being who you're called to be. Is right? You shared the Paul Ellis's.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was prior to that. I sent a note earlier today. The reason it ended up as a fragment is I needed to respond to whether we were having it at the church. I had this text there, and I'm like, I don't want to have to remember this, so I just sent it.
Right on.
So I just explained it to you. Dysfunctional discipleship.
Yeah. So real quick, hey, Pastor Martin. Martin's on, actually.
Martin.
And then Sister Lisa. Just a quick side story. Martin had put on Facebook, I think it was like 2 weeks ago now, that he almost, he killed a snake on the trail, rattlesnake. And I was sitting at home watching it, and then I decided to go up a trail in the evening, and then almost got bit by a rattlesnake.
Wow.
So I think that would have been my sign not to go on trails that day. But my problem is I wasn't even on a trail.
So is that like like you were getting a little jealous that, Saul has killed his 10,000s and, David has killed his tens of
Go
thousands.
smash a snake.
Yeah, but Martin killed a snake. I almost got
That's what I mean.
killed by a snake.
Right. Well, one of you is Saul and
Yeah.
one's David. I don't know, I did see that he posted 11 years of marriage.
Yes, congratulations, Martin.
And so Martin's been working with me on a project. Poor guy probably rolls his eyes every time I call. But I'm trying to work on this idea of and Martin, just as a heads up, I think that really we need to explore along the lines of cadence. So sometimes the way that we like sing songs, we sort of run syllables together because they don't fit any other way. And you can make a very persuasive argument that things like chapter divisions and verse divisions in the Bible suffer from that same thing where stuff is sort of forced together. And what it creates is sort of a dissonance in how we interpret and apply some texts because we're just shoving stuff together. So that's a future topic or a book.
Interpretation, yes.
So I don't know if we're going to keep talking about dysfunctional discipleship. But along that lines, I was trying to recall. I'll have to read your text real quick. But what we're saying is when we go out to evangelize, what does that look like as far as functional discipleship?
No. Actually, what I'm describing. So there are a couple things to consider. The first is Jesus' clear description in the Great Commission of what it looks like going to all the world. It's the teaching, it's the baptizing, it's the discipling, it's teaching people about the process, the system, and the methodology or the approach that Jesus introduced. The second part of it is how we go about rationalizing what we do. Now, if we were to set aside the argument for a moment, whether or not Hebrews is written by Paul or not, Hebrews 10:25 says, "Don't forsake the assembling of yourselves." We've seen through the course of the pandemic, we've seen folks that are arguing for the importance of coming together, right? And you can make an argument that there is an element of dysfunctional discipleship, high-risk behavior, however a person feels about it. I'm not making a judgment call one way or another. I'm just laying it out without any emotional engagement in it. So that's one form. And someone might make the argument that it has similarities to the movement in the 50s of snake handling, and you could make an equation with virus handling. So that's one form of dysfunctional discipleship that you can draw from that. Another form of dysfunctional discipleship that you can draw from that, with "do not forsake the assembling of yourselves," has to do with the insistence that we have to be here and we have to bring people here. And that's not what the Great Commission is. The Great Commission is go into all the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so the dysfunctional discipleship in that area or within that context is the people that we are teaching to make disciples don't go out into the world to reach people. They rely on word of mouth or some hopeful expectation, or they pray and just expect God to bring people in the door. That is a form of dysfunctional discipleship. You'll see that in some contexts. This is a great one. Most of us have probably met someone who does evangelism in bars. You know someone who does? Have you ever met someone that does? Have you ever met someone? So I know people that's literally what they do. And they run into some raised eyebrows from time to time. Thomas Haggard was talking about someone that he knows that evangelizes in a bar. But it's literally going to where the people are, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this idea of wanting to make sure that you create this space or this holiness or this area that you allow to be unsullied, untainted, not dirty. And so when you go into the world, you run the risk of getting involved in or getting at least dirty with stuff that is just difficult to deal with, right? Being out in the world, being around people who are struggling with things in life. But the importance of discipleship is to create that environment where you're passing on those Christian characteristics, you're passing on those things that are directly relatable to the Word. So that's like those kinds of concepts is what I was wanting to draw out of dysfunctional discipleship, plus about 30 more.
30 more. Nice.
So one thought I get, because we know where to go out and make disciples, but as you were talking, one thought came to my mind was Paul the Apostle, right? When he went out and the Holy Spirit ministered to him, and then he showed up to Jerusalem to kind of compare doctrines or whatever to get approval. If we say so would that be kind of the reverse, that he went to the church to validate his belief in what he was taught?
To a degree. See, here's the thing, though. I mean, this is a can of worms that I don't even know if we want to even open. Now, we assume there are underlying assumptions to all the things in the biblical text that we consider to be true that were not even questioned by the first century church. I mean, like the idea of Trinitarian theology and a lot of the things that we consider settled fact or law really weren't until many years later. So yeah, it can impact discipleship. It can impact how you interpret stuff and look at it. Sure.
Yeah, because just generally what I think too is in my mind, it's important to have a stronghold of believers as well for when we hear iron sharpens iron, but to have a central place where people meet and hear the word of God, and we know the Bible says that in order to understand, there's preachers and whatnot that'll teach you the word. So I get going out to the highways and byways. I get that, but sometimes I was thinking about it while I was coming here too. I was like, how effective is that sometimes? And the thought that came to my mind was, I've gone out to go give Bibles to homeless, and they'll be like, I got 3 already.
Right.
So then at that point, it's how effective are we being?
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've discussed this before, but you could only give someone so many Bibles, and after a while, they're just like, I have enough. I got a pile, or I can't carry it. It's too much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the natural evolution of evangelism is really moving beyond the perceived needs and getting into actual needs, right? So if we want to talk about dysfunctional discipleship for a minute, if we consider going out and giving someone a Bible tract or a Bible itself as a form of discipleship, we've confused that with evangelism. But what we miss is that if they have 3 Bibles, they've already been evangelized. So they're still missing the same thing. They're missing the teacher. And so, sure, we have the passage in Romans that says, how are they going to know unless someone is sent? And we interpret that in the context of, someone being a preacher. And to be absolutely transparent, something that we've talked about here for a very long time, the church today struggles because it has this very unhealthy obsession with making evangelists pastors. and it's a dangerous thing. And what it does, this is why it creates that model that people come and don't leave, because you have the revival happening at the church, and all those things that you see are in the back of your mind that are those things that you relate to some sort of Bible revival or biblical event. Those are coming from behind the pulpit, and there isn't any teaching. So evangelism doesn't look the same. Ministry doesn't look the same. And discipleship has become dysfunctional because people really can't understand, or people are having difficulty defining what it is that they believe and why.
Why, indeed.
You know, and someone may say, well, it doesn't matter why. Just believe. It's a matter of faith. But for everyone, that place where it is a matter of faith is in a different location. And we can't transmit to someone else, that's dysfunctional discipleship, where that line is for us, right? It's like saying, hey, I speak in tongues, you should say these same words. That's not how that works.
Right.
And so if it doesn't work that way in one spiritual context, you can make the argument that it doesn't work that way in the discipleship context as well.
True.
So Justin, and this is probably a little behind, but give them a Bible tract or read it with them.
Reading it with them is a whole other thing too, yeah.
Which is discipleship, right?
Yeah.
But we want people to be evangelists, and we think that evangelism is discipleship. That's the problem. That's why it's dysfunctional. He gave some, right, to be apostles, gave some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, some to be pastors, and some to be teachers. And there is an application of the fivefold ministry that people have taken things to spiritual excess and have made some things weird that shouldn't be. And so we find ourselves in that spot.
So April, but real quick, one thing I've seen over the course of a couple of years is that people want someone to sit with them. They may have 3 Bibles, and we may offer a meal here and there. But I believe our time with these people is more important. I believe then itself ministers to people, and it does, because we've seen that recently here at the church as well. And I'll just be transparent. Some people talk your ear off, and you know, within myself, I had to learn as well is that even though they're talking my ear off, and I got to get stuff done. That's always the factor. There is people want to talk your ear off when you got to get stuff done. But it really made me really evaluate myself on the way I carry out, because I'm like, what's more important? And you see that need. You could hear that need because they don't have someone to talk to all day long. So when you do give them an ear, then they're just you know, talking your ear off per se. But at the same time, you know, you really hear people. And I know even myself, I've heard from God through them speaking to me. So even though the goal is for us to go, sometimes we hear those messages coming back to us.
So just a quick note, after church on Sunday, we were leaving Grants, and we turned the corner, and there's the wandering prophet Jeff.
Jeff from here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
we sent him.
Yeah.
Did you give him a ride?
Well, I mean, we gave him some. Well, we had an extra tray, and it was weird. There was an extra tray just sitting on the table at church from food, and nobody knew whose tray it was. And we're like, all right, well, we'll take it.
Tray of lasagna, or it was good lasagna?
Yeah, tray of lasagna, just a plate of lasagna with a fork and everything on it. And so we just put it in the car, and then we were leaving, and there was Jeff.
I love it.
And so
are you implying Jeff talks my ear off?
Well, I mean, he can, but he has something to say, I tell you.
Well, here's something that I think factors into that. When we're talking about discipleship and the importance of, or really framing what it means to be a disciple, one who follows a discipline, this may sound strange, but everybody wants to feel important, right? And there are instances where someone gets to talk to the pastor, and whether that means the same thing to you that it means to them or not, for some folks that's a pretty significant thing. It makes them feel important. And if we have opportunities to help people feel like they can carry themselves with dignity, that they are respected enough to not be loathed, even if not to be loved.
Amen.
I direct them towards Ken.
Well,
That's my default. Here's Ken's number. I don't even have cards back there anymore.
right. So
I just defer to Ken.
and I've done, as far as discipling people, like discipling and parenting. Okay, parenting, you have a responsibility to be involved and to do the things. And for my entire time, I have 6 children and 4 grandchildren, and the entire time I've been a parent. Well, for the first 10, 15 years of being a parent, I didn't even consider myself a parent. And then when I converted and gave my life to Jesus, I did consider, the things that I had, the children that God has blessed me with, and being a parent. And also with that came spiritual children and people that you want to teach or minister to and see discipled. And I've struggled for many years with the idea of, or the responsibility, kind of the weight of the responsibility of ministering or discipling someone, and also parenting in an effective manner that actually you're involved in your child's life. And so an effective this person who disciples somebody would be involved in the people that they're discipling. It would not just, here's a Bible, here's some food, peace. An effective minister would not be an absentee minister, right? Because when you think about dysfunctional families, you have absentee parents, you have abusive parents, you have parents who contribute to the delinquency, and you can say you have ministers who contribute to the delinquency of the church.
Well, you go to that passage. What is it, Ezekiel 34 or Ezekiel 37, where it's talking about why do you it's talking about bad pastors. Why do you push with the shoulder and the flank? What is it? Trample the grass so that and muddy the water so that no one gets to drink anything clean. And that's sometimes what happens with dysfunctional discipleship as well. Let me find that passage. It's either Ezekiel 34 or 37.
So real quick, Sister Lisa wrote, the other day I sat with the homeless and gave them a meal, prayed with them, read the Bible with them, gave them my Bible, gave them a mask, and then hand sanitizer. She was blessed with the most thing that was best about it was the car that was in with the food service. Sorry, I might be butchering this. That seeing what Sister Mary and I did, pass it forward so others can see, so they can do the same and not be ashamed to sit with the homeless. So that's another thing, that's awesome that you guys did that, Sister. Sorry, Sister Lisa. But I don't know why we think of evangelism as always homeless, to the homeless population.
Right.
And as we were sitting here, I was thinking, because I talk to God, and God puts me in some weird situations a lot of times, very, very uncomfortable situations, and I'll leave it at that part. But I'm not sure, and this is just out there. I'm not saying it's fact or anything, but I do so many weddings and so many funerals, and those are the 2 things I least like to do. And the reason I least like to do those things, to me, are 2 very important days in a family's life, and I don't want to mess things up. But yet, I'll get calls out of nowhere from people I knew from way far back, or they heard of me from another friend to do those services, and I'm like, man, I'm already so busy. I always do it, but within my mind, I'm like, I'm always so busy. Why do I always get picked to do all these things? Should I start passing them off? And I'm like, no, they asked me. It means a lot for them to have me there. And then when I'm there, I realize that I'm within the services, I'm able to preach, and it's always a message of hope and a message of love to people that would never probably even tune in or come into the church.
Yeah.
So then God started revealing that to me, that that's my evangelism, because other than that, it would be to go out to the streets here and there once in a while. But those things, like, I'm almost on a monthly basis with one of those services. And when I think about it, I'm like, this is the way the Lord has used my life to evangelize. And then sometimes it's in these very uncomfortable situations that I'm put in. But then at the end of it, I'm like, for instance, this weekend we were at a funeral, and there had to be almost 150 people there. 150 that have never came in this church.
Wow.
And so to me, like when I look at them, like that's evangelism, going to places and going to people that I would never normally meet, but by just saying, you know, and I'm just saying this, but I do everything for free.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I get invited a lot. But at the same time,
free pastor. Yeah.
At the same time, I'm able to minister to people I would never have the opportunity
That's a blessing.
to minister to on my own.
So you frame an important context, Ness, and I this is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and I'm just going to sort of tie into that and kind of add to the discussion. Now, I've thought for some time that the idea of discipleship, we really overcomplicate. We want to identify, target people. I think maybe in the back of our minds, and most of us probably won't admit it, but I think we want to be like, you know, you come and follow me. You come and follow me. And we'll never admit it. I've thought it. You've probably thought it too. Guys have out there, you know it. But we want there to be like this permanence. And like we talked about it in CAMS, that, you know, people when they get called by God, there's usually not this accompanying fanfare. It's just not like this, you know, thing that happens. And so it is much easier to just disciple everybody all the time, everywhere, in everything that you do, just disciple people. When you say, well, but some of those people aren't believers. Well, when they become believers, you'll have a lot less to teach them about love, won't you? Right? And so you start asking the question, well, what is discipleship?
Here it is. That's exactly
What
it.
is discipleship?
Yeah.
And so if we have confused it with something else and we've complicated it, well, then let's take some steps back. Let's identify what it is so that we know when we're doing it right. Maybe more importantly, know when we're not.
For me, discipling and evangelism are pretty close. They're intertwined. They're not completely distinct. Making disciples and evangelizing the lost or evangelizing the backslider and making a disciple is the same thing. But like you were saying, I used to watch a lot of kung fu movies where you had the one teacher kind of make a disciple, and but that was a different type of a disciple that, you know, I don't know if it works that way in the church, but
I think it does.
Grasshoppers.
I think it does.
well, with the Chinese,
Young grasshopper.
yeah. So,
And see, I would argue that I don't see them very connected at all. Like they are connected in the sense that it's part of the Great Commission, but they're related. I don't see evangelism as tied directly with discipleship. For me, evangelism is not really anything that I'm very good at, but I feel I have a degree of competence at discipling. And so I may not evangelize people very well, or if I do evangelize people, it's long term. Like it's happened to me a couple times in the 2.5 years I've worked downtown Albuquerque, where I've gotten to know some of the folks, you know, around the neighborhood that are just kind of around. And a few of them, you know, I'd known them, known them, their names, you know, their names are irrelevant. And, you know, they each asked me at a different time, they said, "Are you a Christian?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "Are you a pastor?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "I thought so." You see, we lead with that, right? We lead with that.
Right.
And that's where I think we get discipleship positioned to be errant, is because we are asking folks to conform their cognition to something that we have predefined that we will tell them more about later. And for some people, particularly in the information age, that makes discipleship very difficult.
Well, what I've been kind of meditating on is the nonverbal aspects of being a follower of Jesus. So the nonverbal confession, the nonverbal proclamation of the gospel, the nonverbal discipleship. So there's ways to do all those things without having to say all those things. How do we disciple somebody without telling them, hey, open your Bible, read 6 chapters a day, and do this, and this? But instead, we can disciple someone by just having them walk with us, right? Follow me as I follow Christ.
Right. And for me, that's been the more successful model. Like the people that I've had a chance to have long-term conversations with, that has been the discipleship that I've seen fruit from. That's been the discipleship that I see effective without it being formalized. Like for me, it's less religiously formal in its structure. Discipleship is for me. Yeah. Discipleship is far more conversational. It's far more experiential. It's far more existential.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on the way here. I was thinking of that because I remember Ken had put that in a text about kind of the nonverbal communication of communication. And when I was at a 4-way stop, right, the other guy should have went before me, but yet he used hand gestures to tell me to go ahead, and so that communicated
to go ahead, or was he telling you where to go?
Either or, his perspective.
Yeah.
But his body language communicated something, right? And so it made me kind of think back to Ken's text of that, and how many times does the way we carry ourselves in life in general, not the words alone, but just the way we're perceived by our actions, carry a message out there as well.
Yeah, we are living epistles, I think it says, right? We are living messages as we go through our life. What did Lisa say on here?
Go for it, Ken.
Lisa said there are sick in the street that are homeless, that no one ever think about, and that want Jesus, that are embarrassed to go to the church, or have family members that don't want them around anymore because of their illness or illnesses. It takes us that love, the love of Jesus, to share Jesus with them, and that's evangelism, and that's the true love of Jesus.
Yeah, and sister, you do a great job. There's a crew of folks that just they've got these wonderful bags that they pass out to folks up in Albuquerque. It's hats off to that crew.
Amen.
Yep.
Chick-fil-A all day.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
April said, we are placed in those uncomfortable situations because we are to shine Jesus, no matter how uncomfortable it is maybe for us. We have to put ourselves aside. I must say that I am very proud of you for what you did this weekend, talking to Lisa, I believe, and it is a blessing and honor to be called upon these uncomfortable situations. It is for those of us who are willing to do the uncomfortable thing and go the extra mile and walk the road that Jesus has set for us to walk. It's a challenge, but the thing is, it's also whenever I've made the choice to do the hard thing, I like almost immediately reap a blessing from that. So it's not this overwhelming duty that I struggle with. It's a joy to serve God. It's a joy to bless people. It's a joy to walk in the kingdom. Amen.
So just for clarification, she was talking to me, Ken.
Oh, talking to you. Okay.
Yes. Shots fired.
Yeah. No, I just won't openly talk about it right now.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those uncomfortable situations I was asked to be in. That
oh yeah. Okay.
Myself,
I got it. Sorry.
I personally wasn't comfortable, but it's one of those times, and it hasn't been my first time in life where I literally have to put myself aside and go through with my pastoral duties
right.
that I have committed to.
Right.
And so my commitment doesn't stop because I'm uncomfortable. And I've made that up in my mind, and I fight myself. How they say you kick against the
Goads or
the
whatever.
goads or whatever. And I've done that, but at the end of it, I'm like, Lord, you're putting me here. I said send I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
And because we say that because it sounds good, Lord send me.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it's uncomfortable, we're like, nah, send Pastor Ken. Right? But
okay,
I've
is there
been in that situation where I've literally felt like Nesses have to, well, you could even get all biblical. Ness has to decrease for he to increase, but where I've literally spiritually seen myself sit aside
yeah.
and let God do what God does through me.
So when you've done that, do you like almost immediately, or do you reap a blessing from that? I mean, for me, I have whenever I have actually said I don't want to do this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Yeah, I have reaped maybe not a physical blessing, but a spiritual blessing, or I can just see God's favor come upon a situation when I make a choice to be faithful or be obedient to the call.
Well, he's not a microwave God. Ken, this was just yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I don't look out for the blessings. I don't do it for the blessings. You know, I feel my life is blessed, just with my family and my relationship.
Mhm.
Anything else is just a bonus. And
I think that's what he means, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm.
Let me take a stab at it. Sorry, I'm going to
yeah,
interrupt you.
no, you
So
don't.
let me take a stab at it. So I would say that my perspective on that is I usually see that I'm overwhelmed with blessings already. And so doing the hard thing, sometimes what I really get the benefit of now is seeing me do the hard thing that blesses someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a cool spot to be in.
Mhm.
Because I get the blessing of watching the blessing.
Well, I mean, but you had to be obedient to sow that seed, right? So for me, if I'm not wanting to do something that I know God wants me to do, but then I go and do it, and I see someone get blessed from it, and I see someone in my family, I see God's favor just pour out.
It's the culmination of my life. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like, I had to I was reading this 23rd Psalm the other day, and I had to read it a couple times. Psalm 23:6, right? Your blessings and all those things, like all of those things, everything follows me. I'm not chasing anything.
He prepares a table.
I don't have to chase anything, and we're stuck. We're bound by that. If you are careful and obedient, and you hear and do the words that I have spoken to you this day, then you will eat the good of the land. And so we place ourselves in a position where the Bible expressly says we are not supposed to stand. And we say, well, these blessings, and it creates that dysfunctional discipleship, because then you create these unrealistic expectations, and then you have these tensions that break against lines that are difficult to explain, and turns into theological acrobatics to make things make sense, and it's just not that complicated.
Yeah, so April said you were right on it, brother.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, we don't want to get into the tit for tat or the working for reward. I mean, I'm not saying that we should do these. I mean, be more faithful in discipleship or evangelism so we can gain a reward. But the thing is, what is true is we do reap what we sow. So this is an unavoidable fact of the universe that we live in. And so for me, what compels me to be more faithful, because if I have the opportunity to slack off, I usually do. but I don't want to be the absentee or the dysfunctional pastor or the disciple maker. I want to be someone who is caring and involved and engaged into the thing that God has called us to do. And for me, when I see, I mean, because I'm blessed all day, every day, above and beyond whatever I could dream or imagine. And yet sometimes, this abundant life that God has given me, I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like going and praying with somebody or or work, doing the things that I know God's called me to do. But every time I remember, I know this is the path that I've chosen. This is the portion that I've been given, and I should be faithful in it.
I heard you. You said this is the path that I've chosen. I heard that.
Yeah,
I heard that.
yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah, there's choices. There is choice.
So there's there's a lot of really good stuff. The comparing and contrasting of rewards, and so that's a really big thing in a lot of people's framing of theology and what they anticipate getting or receiving or being the beneficiary of. There are some really profound points that we've covered tonight about dysfunctional discipleship, and I can imagine that there's going to be a few more just as we've gone through our discussion. Like you made a point a minute ago that I'm going to go back and flesh out just a little bit on a comment that you made. I'm like, oh, that is some good stuff. Brothers, you guys are very good. You're wonderful intellectuals. We are in a church that increasingly considers we are in a world where much of people's engagement with God is almost transactional. Like like I'll do these things if you'll do that. Like that's been a huge part of whatever. But the transactional nature, where the things that Luther was frustrated with about indulgences. We have this idea that everything in life, because we're a market-based economy, is transactional, and therefore our relationship with God is transactional as well. And there is much more permanence to and substance to the relationship we have with God that is so far beyond transactional that it really it sort of demeans and cheapens the gift.
So I know we're wrapping up, and I know this would probably be for another day, but as we were talking, about rewards, and so just the thought that came to my mind is people worry about what crowns they're gonna get, and I'm just speaking what's on my mind. I truly don't think about what crowns I may or may not get.
Right.
I don't ever think of it unless someone preaches about it a lot of times.
I don't yet.
But I guess I'm just in love with God that He would choose me to be a vessel that is worthy, and whatever may come with it or whatever may not, I already feel, the love, the agape love from God, and I don't know how much better it could get.
Amen.
I don't think it does.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good stuff. Love you guys. Missed you. 3 weeks. Been for me. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, God bless you guys. We'll see you all next time.
Peace, love, Jesus.